listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and check us out online at beardedtheologians.com. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a very special guest, a friend of ours, the Reverend Hannah Bonner. She's the Wesley Foundation Director at the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. And she's got a new project called Facing Christmas that we want her to unpack for us today. Hannah, thanks for coming on and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Facing Christmas is basically a 4-week video project. We will be releasing a new video every Monday, which is some of our students here in the borderlands of the United States talking about how the Christmas story intersects with their own story. So, of course, we live in the desert like Jesus, and a lot of the issues and we live close to the border, and a lot of the issues that crop up in Scripture kind of hit us in a more direct way a lot of the times. And so being here, we have students whose stories can really intersect with the Christmas story in terms of being summoned to be counted, in terms of having Jesus' family flee across the border, in terms of being able to identify with Mary being a young woman who was at risk of being criticized for becoming pregnant young. So there's a lot of ways. And of course, the most obvious one, young people who are immigrants being told that there's no room in the inn here for them in the United States. And so, we really want to take the opportunity to allow these young people to be heard, and to be heard completely in their own voice. So I have no say in what they say. I'm not even talking to them about it beforehand. So they are. This is their voice and their reflection on how the Scripture is lived out for them, and how they live out the Scripture, and how this story impacts their prayer life, and how they respond, and how they're struggling with it, and how they're finding hope in the story of Jesus' birth. And so I'm just incredibly inspired by them. It's a group of young women, Ana Laura Mendoza, Ana Galaviz, and Erendida, and they are all students who are DACA receiving and who are talking about this from a position of vulnerability in our nation right now. Just like Jesus found himself in a vulnerable position there when his family had to take him to flee Bethlehem. So I was editing last night, and just incredibly excited about the one that's coming out next Monday as well.
Well, and that was the thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Zach.
You get it.
All right. Well, that was the one thing that kind of caught my, I think when you posted, when you're editing about it, it kind of piqued my interest. And then when you posted the video, I was watching it, and I was like, wow, this is just, this is super powerful. And this is something that we need to share, and, try to figure out how we can, open some more people's eyes on this, and how this is really impacting, and how this story that we have as part of our tradition, and how it's, it's just kind of, it speaks. And so it was kind of and that's why I wanted to reach out to you and have you share this, because I know, trying to, broaden that, net a little wider is always a good thing. And so, and so that's kind of the reason why I wanted to reach out to you and have you, share this story for us. And thank you for that. And thank you for the work that you're doing, because I know that editing videos is never an easy thing.
Yeah, and we're trying to make them real pretty for y'all, because I really, I think it's important to create as beautiful a frame for things to help people to be able to receive them. And so that's kind of the work that I do. I'm just the grunt work. I'm just, doing the monotonous grunt work. This is the voice of these women, and I'm just doing the grunt work to try to create a frame that people will be able to really experience their voices in their fullness. So I'm excited though. It's fun, right? I mean, It's monotonous. But art is fun.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And what you're doing is so terribly important. I come from a background in the desert Southwest of being a Wesley Foundation director within, I don't know, 60 miles of the border, and facing a lot of the same issues and seeing a lot of the same students. In whether it's border students or just college students in general, giving them a place where they can have a voice, where they can live into these stories, where they can live into these and speak it from their own, with their own voice, is huge. And so I absolutely love what you're doing just from that perspective of giving young people a voice, but giving letting them go and not giving them any information of just, hey, come tell your story, come tell your perspective. Don't take mine, don't take anybody else's. That's huge. Because we don't do that with adults, much less young people. We want them to say, go in and say this, talk about that. No, you tell the story from your perspective. And you're right. The students that you have, that you're working with, have such a unique perspective and something that we need to hear. And putting it in with a story that we're all familiar with is huge.
Yeah, and I'm learning so much from them because, like, I was just this is a really important point. We're making them in both English and Spanish, so we're shooting twice and we're editing twice as much work, because it's worth it to us. It's worth it to us, and we want our churches to have this resource in both English and Spanish, because we want people to be able to hear it in their heart's language. And so the English version is a little more challenging and challenging us to action, and the Spanish version is a little more comforting during this time when people feel under attack. And so that's, up to each of the young women how they create that. But all that to say, of course, I'm getting a help from my friend Ella Rawls from JFON as I'm editing the Spanish version, because she's much more fluent than I am. And so we were sitting doing it yesterday, and we were both just completely blown away at the insights of, it's an exciting time to be alive in the church when there's so many other voices and perspectives being brought into it, and we can understand scripture in a way we never have, because honestly, how can we really understand the stories of women like Mary from the perspective of only, power holding white men, right? You can't possibly understand her story. And so to have, the closer somebody is to her experience, the better we are able to understand her story. And like, what an exciting time to be alive and to be able to learn.
No, you're oh gosh dang it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, and you're right. Those, when I look at Advent and coming up to this season, the third week in Advent where we celebrate Mary's portion of that story, and that's the hardest one for me to wrap my head around, because I have no perspective on that is anything other than being a white guy, and so that one's the hardest one for me to dig into. And so having voices like this are so beneficial for everyone to go, oh my gosh, here we are. This is what this sounds like. This is what this voice is. And how do I shape my sermons? How do I shape my perspective? How do I shape who I am as a pastor and as a person to speak to this and to speak into it in a way that gives it life and isn't demeaning and isn't anything but the gospel and but the truth and love and grace. And that's always struggle with that one, because like, how do I tell this story in a way that doesn't make me look like a jerk, or that I just don't get it, and so having this is huge. It's great.
And that's the thing I struggle. I was kind of resonate exactly. Like when it comes to that Sunday, I'm like, man, what do I say? Like, cause that's not my experience. And so I've tried to do it in many different ways, and I can't do it as well as someone, like these story, like the first one that I saw. It just like, man, how can I work this in on a Sunday morning? And I think that's the thing is to, I think the more that we can open our table and and give a place for those voices to have a place, I think that's just so powerful. And I thank you for doing that, because you've done that. You did it at Houston with the shout, and now you're doing that here with this, and bringing that attention to the church is so powerful. And I thank you for that work that you're doing on that, because it's a great thing. And so, keep up the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think it's really it's a commitment to it's a belief and a commitment. The belief is that there are other voices other than ours as preachers that we will benefit, our congregations will benefit from hearing, and the commitment is to doing the hard work of figuring out the logistics of making that happen. And I'm so grateful, because for me, I can do all the work in the world, and if I can't find pastors on the other side to partner with me in getting out the kind of like resources that we create, then it just goes into the void. And so, like, I'm committed to working hard to try to amplify voices. And I'm so grateful for the pastors that will partner in sharing that with their congregations.
So we want to encourage you to check out all the videos that they'll have posted out. We'll post a link in that in this post for you all to click on and to share and to utilize. Maybe in this season of Admit, maybe you haven't even started thinking about what to teach on, and you're scrambling around for a resource. I would encourage you to look at this resource as maybe an awesome opportunity to start some conversation, maybe in a Sunday school or a small group that you have going. And like I said, we'll have that in the link in this post. And we, Hannah, we thank you for your time. We know that you're, just like all of us, we've got a lot on our plates, but to take a little time to talk to us, Beards, is always we always enjoy that. And so no, you're always welcome back anytime. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
And I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and we hope that you share our content online through Facebook and social media. And we hope that you check out our Beardcast store at beardedtheologians.com and pick up some great Bearded Theologians gear. We hope you have a good day.
Just music started playing. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Way to ruin our one take theory, Zach.
Dang it. I'm going to go home, take a nap. That's ridiculous.